Responsible gaming is a buzzword within the industry. Regulators and politicians like to talk about it. It plays well with their constituents. Operators like to talk about it as well. They say they practice it. But in reality, what is responsible gaming and how is it being practiced in online casinos as well as online sports books? Well, Robert DellaFave of the EVChief.com wrote a recent article. I thought it was very good, and he's going to join me here today to discuss it a little bit further and see how responsible gaming is really playing out. So joining me today is Robert DellaFave of the EVChief.com. Now, Robert bills himself as the head chief at the EVChief. He's worked for a variety of gambling publications, and as he says, he just got tired of being yelled at by casino reps for being too honest. Robert, thanks for joining me here today. Let's talk about this article you wrote, the link to which is in the description of this video. What led you to go about writing this article?
You know, before I was in the industry, I was always a player. And as a player, we all have our moments where we might need to take a break. And I was finding on all the different New Jersey sites, and now they're plentiful, you know, they span multiple verticals. There's like 20 different operators. There was really no consistency in the industry. So maybe on one site, I could find a responsible gaming limit page and I'd have to take 5 or 6 clicks to get there. And if I was like a new player, I'd have no idea how to find them. And then on some pages, it was much better. It was like right in the forefront, and I could set my limits and I could set them for casino or for sports, and it was just much better. And so I'm like, why is site A doing one thing and site B doing another when this is supposed to be kind of like a homogenized standard for the industry that we were promised back in 2013? And it got me thinking, well, how can we change this that the average player who may or may not develop a tendency is kind of made more aware of responsible gaming? And I know it's not the sexiest topic, but I wanted to kind of bring it to the forefront. And I figured just writing something about it where we kind of list the points as players and as industry people and merge them and see what we take a little bit from each side's perspective, how it would work out. And this is what I came up with.
Yeah, you know, you approached me about this article a few weeks back, and we discussed it a little bit. We were kind of coming up with some ideas in different ways, and then you took off with it. And I think the end result is really very strong because you've identified, I think it's 6 points in the article here where it can be a little bit better. And, you know, let's kind of go through them for the viewers here so they can see them themselves. The first one is that they move responsible gaming tools to the forefront. You gave an example here on screen where it's basically the color scheme of the casino is all green, and then the responsible gaming logo is green with yellow lettering, and that just blends in with the rest of the site, right?
And not only that is if you click on most of these, it's going to give you some useful RG information, but it's not taking you to the limits page. It's not taking you to the cool off page. So you have to go somewhere entirely different to find those pages. And if you're lucky, maybe you'll find a link to the responsible limits page buried down in section 13B or whatever, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I found that same thing, is that you have to dig and dig to find where it is you set it. And then you have to make sure that you're setting the correct thing too, because there are daily limits, there are monthly limits, there are yearly limits, there are, you know, you have a cool off period. You can do a cool off period for 7 days, 30 days, or you can self-exclude yourself, which is a step that is pretty drastic because in a lot of cases, the casinos, when you self-exclude, you're banned from all other casinos all around the country, correct?
It's so random. You self-exclude, you're supposed to be excluding from online and in the state. So if I say self-exclude for 1 year, my expectation would be just New Jersey, just online, just 1 year. And it's not true. Caesars will ban you all over the country. Mm-hmm. And then MGM goes the complete opposite way, where you're not even banned from the Borgata in New Jersey. You get a letter saying, you're still welcome here, come be a DGen, you know? And there's no consistency. And I don't know if we should, I mean, I think we should be, there's a kind of a need to address that. If it's online, it should be online, in my opinion.
I agree. Your second point here was empower players at the time of their first deposit. Talk a little bit more about that one.
This is kind of one of those obvious ones to me, because I feel like with responsible gaming, you're always walking a fine line of intrusion, and operators should they be addressing people? Should they have interventions? But when you put it right in the beginning on this equal playing field, as soon as anyone signs up, here's what we offer before you make your first deposit. We just want to make you aware we offer these tools, and you can show, and you would, in this case, you would show the deposit limits, the spend limits, and the time limits, and then they have the weekly, daily, and monthly, as you said. Just show them that page, show them how to do it, show them maybe a little 2-sentence tutorial on what they actually do, a one-time thing, and maybe have some periodic times where they hit a certain deposit threshold, be it 2,500, 5,000, 10,000, over the course of a month or a year, where you're showing it again.
No, I agree with that as well. I think the earlier you can put that in their minds that these are the tools you can use, the better. And often people don't go looking for the tools until it's too late for them. Your next point here in the article is one that I really agree with, and that is eliminate pending withdrawals. This is a gimmick that a lot of the online casinos do. And I say it's a gimmick because it really is. They basically leave your withdrawal in a pending state where you can reverse it and go back and play with it. If you request a withdrawal, you request a withdrawal because you want the money, right? I mean, it's not like because you were like, oh, just park this here for a little while. You could leave it in the account if you really want to just park it there. But when you try to withdraw, you want the money, and they leave it in a pending state. Now, their reasoning for this is they feel like, oh, well, we need to make sure all of your documentation's in order. We've verified your ID. We've, verified that you were in the state and whatnot. And that's fine. But after your first withdrawal, that sort of thing should be pretty easy to do because all of the documents are on file. And even if they have that pending withdrawal, you don't need to have the ability for the user to be able to reverse it. Robert, I totally agree with you on this one. Like, pending withdrawals just drive me nuts because as a gambler, people often say, well, I won $50. I think I could get it to 100, or that whole round number fallacy where I won $90, but 100 would look so much better.
Here's the one with me. If you win, like, let's say you win 500 and your balance is 600, you deposit 100 and you're up to 600, and you say, okay, well, I'll set a stop loss at 300. So I take out $300 now. Now I have that $300 locked up. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm going to gamble $200 or whatever. And I lose that $200 real fast, blink of an eye. Now I'm on tilt. Now I want more money. Well, I could deposit more, but I have this pending withdrawal right here. And that way, that's like casino money, right? So people are going to kind of justify that. And you're going to take it right out. And going back to your previous point about the about the time frame, about actually having this option to reverse your withdrawal for how many days. I question about like how honest the casino is being about these protocols that they need to take with security. Why? Mainly because why can a casino A process my withdrawal in an hour, and casino B takes 8 days, and that's really the discrepancy from the best to the worst. And I'll say like a Play Sugar House is probably the best, where you have a rush pay option that'll do it instantly. And even the regular withdrawals are like an hour, and then you have other end of the spectrum, kind of your Hard Rock, your Caesars, your DraftKings, which go from 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 days. I've seen up to 8, and I've seen people complain online about 8 days. And these are very loyal players who are very well known to this casino, where I don't think they need these periodic checks.
Your next point here was offer more flexibility. And this is beyond just the tools that are out there right now, but what about offering flexibility in terms of what games you can be self-excluded from? Look, there's not a gambler around that doesn't have like the game that is the big temptation to them that they know they go on tilt about. For me in the past, it's always been video poker. I'm one of these people that I might do fine winning at sports, and then I'll start playing some video poker. Before I know it, some of the day's winnings are gone. It's unfortunate, and video poker just always to me has seemed to be a game where, like, oh, I feel like I can get an edge here. The house edge is real low, and I have the decisions over which cards to hold. I'm in control. It's a temptation, at least to me. But each gambler knows what their temptation game is. Yet these online casinos won't let you restrict yourself, most of them, just based on which games that that are susceptible to you. Talk more about what you found in that piece.
There's only maybe 2 or 3 sites that allow you to specify if you want to exclude from a certain vertical. And I think this is imperative. I think it's reckless to allow people to either say, yes, I'm going to participate in all forms of gambling, or no, I can't participate in any. That's too fine a line. It's too big of a divide. So what I'd like to see is every site allow you to say, okay, here's poker, here's casino, and here's a sports betting. And you can take yourself out of each one, and you can have separate deposit, spending, and time limits at the very, very bare minimum of each one. You can cool off from each one individually. And I think that'll go a long way to protecting, I think, poker players and sports bettors in particular, who some do rely on this for an income, and some rely on this for their families, and they're kind of being held hostage by the site because their tendencies are to tilt off on, steam off on video poker. I'm video poker too, by the way. I mean, allow people the option to kind of get away from their vice, and that's going to lead to, I think, a lower prevalence of problem gambling.
Yeah,
I think the one thing we need to see, like more than anything, we need to see every site have the same protocols and put them in the forefront, and it just merges all those points into one. In this point, like, just get it together with that. I think there needs to be more homogeneity between all the different tools they have within the verticals too. You have like a PokerStars has like 10 different ways you can customize your responsible gaming, and then most other sites are like a couple little check boxes. So it's just
right.
Weird.
No, and the point of regulation is to make the experience be very homogenous across the board. And right now, despite all the regulation around responsible gaming, there is no real, similarity between sites when it comes to.
Yeah, and this is becoming more and more of a problem as we have more sites with multi-vertical. It wasn't a big deal back in 2013. We had one state with a couple sites, and most of them were just casino, and the poker ones were a little bit separate. Now everything's merged, so we really have to address it now. The rules of 2013 are antiquated.
Right. And, these sports books now want to have an online casino component because they realize sports betting is a low margin, whereas, offering slots and games like that are a higher margin for them. So, I agree. The next point here was use data analysis to identify problem gaming. And this is one thing that I had some input into the article about because it's a really interesting idea that I first heard from a fellow named Lloyd Danzig, who has done some remarkable work when it comes to ways to push gaming forward in the United States and beyond. And basically his idea was, we have all this machine learning. We have machine learning being used everywhere for everything. And, casino companies use some sort of data analysis and data science to cultivate their players. And they use all of this for casino marketing. However, it could also be used for responsible gaming. It follows sort of some telltale signs. Your deposits become more frequent. They become larger as you chase losses. Your betting becomes, at higher stakes as you chase. You start to wager on things that are a long shot. And sports bettors know this. You lose a few, and then you try to make a parlay to get it all back, and you only end up going deeper in the hole. The situation is, though, when you have problem gaming, you have these signs that show how it's happening. Why can't we use that to have machine learning type triggers that, and even if that just is a warning sign that pops up and says, your recent behavior is indicative of problem gaming, here are your resources, just pop it up there. That might be enough to kind of say to somebody, whoa, I got to put the brakes on. There's so much technology that can be used here to kind of make it all a little bit better, don't you think?
I think that the somber truth is they don't want to make it better for certain. I think there's kind of like a rule in the gambling industry that where most casinos are making the vast majority of their revenue, and I can speak this a little bit having been in the affiliated industry myself. They're looking for those few whales. They're willing to lose money on a bunch of casuals just to, reel in that big player. And if you start putting all these signs in front of them, like roadblocks or danger, caution, you're running a risk of losing them. You're running a risk of them saying you're being intrusive, them saying, I don't really have a problem. But it does need to be done. It does need to be studied. There does need to be a balance between what's intrusive and what's helpful. Where do we step in? What's the line? And I believe with machine learning, as you mentioned, we have the capability of doing this right now. I really do feel that way. And maybe that's an oversimplistic view, but I feel like if you can identify sharp bettors and limit them and know what the exact limit you want to set for them, and down to the cent, like $5.17 on DraftKings, you see that all the time. If you can do that, if you can definitely say identify the signs of problem gambling.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So the sixth and final point that you raised in this article was the idea of universal timeouts. And this is something that kind of goes back to what we were saying about the regulatory bodies have to make this a homogeneous experience across the board. Well, right now, and you can speak to this a little bit further, but right now, if you decide that you need a timeout, you've got to put yourself in timeout at every single shop. Yeah. If you're a sports bettor, that's in New Jersey right now. That's 17 different sports books you got to log into, put yourself in timeout. With casinos, I mean, Robert, how many casinos do we have in New Jersey now? It's
between everything. If you look at I think it's between 46 and 48, somewhere around that range. Between everything, sports books, casinos, and so I think the sports book number at least in the casinos rather numbers in the 20s.
Yeah, I mean that's look, nobody has the time to go through every single account they have to register for a timeout. So right. What happens is, well, you put yourself in a timeout at the place that you got the most hurt at, and then if the itch starts to trigger in a few days, well, okay, well, I just can't play there. I got to go play at another place, and you repeat the cycle over again. I fully support this idea of universal timeouts. I think it's a great idea.
There's no middle ground right now. You can either go self-exclusion, which is a minimum 1 year, and like we talked about, it's going to get you banned online. It's going to get you banned half the casinos in Atlantic City and like half the casinos in like Las Vegas, which is completely bizarre. Or you can set a 3-day cool off or a 7-day cool off at one site, and then you're going to get the urge, and then you're going to go to another site, and you're going to cool off there, and one by one you're going to kind of go through your outs, but you're going to spend a lot more money than if you said, okay, let me hit one button. And Caesars, I'm going to do it at Caesars. Caesars is going to tell everybody to be on timeout. I like the same with marketing too. During you would just shut up the casinos, and then you would also shut up marketing if you want to as well. Now marketing's kind of iffy because a lot of professional gamers, well, they rely on marketing to get their edge. But what kind of edge do you really have if you're on complete Steam? You're not going to be playing with an edge. So you should have the option too to set up all promotional materials for a set amount of time. I think there definitely needs to be a standard with this. It was one of those things the industry just didn't scale for. And New Jersey's the worst culprit because we have so many sites. Pennsylvania's getting there. And Michigan sure as hell is going to probably have as many sites as we do. Eventually they have a similar population and a very extensive network of casinos, both tribal and commercial. So as these new states come on, maybe we should set the precedent now that you can have these universal cool-offs. And you can call them universal self-excludes for a week or whatever.
So, what I want to close with, though, is who's doing it right, okay? So it's easy to kind of point the finger at the people that you believe are kind of doing it wrong, the operators that just aren't being as responsible. But who's doing a good job? You mentioned Poker Stars in your piece about how you can isolate verticals. Anyone else?
It's funny, it's the sites that I have like the most criticisms of generally And PokerStars, sorry, I definitely have a lot of criticisms of you. The other one, which I have a ton of criticisms for, a lot of them I've propped up recently, is MGM, the MGM Borgata Network. They do now allow what's called service closures. And no one's going to know how to find these, because what does service closure even mean? But I guess if you search 5 clicks deep and you listen to this video, you might figure it out. But service closure allows you to say on and off on casino, sports, and it lets you cool off from each one for as long as you want. And then you can notify someone when you want to come back. So if I want to come back after a month, I can notify and just say, click it back on. And I think there'll be like a kind of a period where you'll still not be able to do it, but eventually you'll be able to play again. And you can click off casino, you can click off sports, and you can click off poker. That's a little bit more simplistic than I'd like. I don't like these hard lines of yes and no, whereas PokerStars, you can actually go drill down into the individual casino game types, which is fantastic. Because like you said before, if my poison is slots or my poison is blackjack or video poker, I can actually individually shut off blackjack or roulette. That's about as far as I'd like to see them go, like really drill down. So they're about the only ones I think are doing it really well. There's a couple sites where you don't have to click too far, like Sugar House. You can get to their responsible gaming options right from my account, and then you click once, you click twice, you're in there. At the very least, let's get there.
Yeah, I agree. One site I think that does a decent job from the sports betting side is PointsBet. They send out a lot of tweets and a lot of emails talking about responsible gaming, talking about the different limits they have, where to find the limits, advice basically on, if you feel yourself kind of tilting. And when I mentioned that to you earlier, Robert, you said that could be a product of their Australia background, right? That's sort of more apropos in the Australia regulated market.
Yeah, I think the Australian market is more intense on gambling advertising and responsible gaming. And it's really, all these other markets have had more time to study it, more time to see its ill effects. And I think they take it a little more seriously than we do, because it's kind of something new here, online gambling. It's been 7 years, but for 49 or 47 states, it's been less than that. And most states still nothing, half the states still nothing at all. So I think it's a learning process, and I don't think we've fully adapted, or I don't think the regulators are fully cognizant of how far we need to go with it. But I think there's more respect for it in other countries that we just haven't fully adapted here, Australia being one of them.
Yeah. Okay, so Robert, as we close up here, what can users expect to see going forward on the EV Chief? Where is your site headed?
Well, we definitely want to start putting out a lot more educational materials. I think we're going to see our video poker series come out within the next few weeks. And we're definitely taking a different approach to the information that's out there. So instead of just memorizing rote lists of rules that no one truly understands, we're going to really take a course-like approach to things. And we're going to keep attacking casinos where we feel they've been wrong. And we're going to keep helping players where they feel they've been wronged or they can do better. We're going to spend a lot of time on Las Vegas in the next few weeks, especially the games people should try to avoid and the advantages they can take now that Vegas is kind of coming back. Maybe I've seen a lot of the mailing offers already. They're kind of juicy. So maybe kind of highlighting which ones players should be taking advantage of as the city reopens. But stuff like that. We're kind of all over the map, just kind of helping players and condemning the casino industry wherever we feel like it needs to be condemned. That's just something you don't see on Google searches anymore, right? Because marketing partners don't look too favorably upon it, let's say. So we're gonna try to do things a little bit differently.
Cool. Look forward to the content that you're putting out there. I think it's well needed in this space. Okay, Robert, thanks for joining me, and thank all of you for watching. If you like this content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up. That'll help it get out to other people that might be searching for videos on responsible gaming in the United States online market. Thanks again.